Jasmine Crockett's icy stare locks onto Kash Patel as she unveils leaked evidence on live TV, unraveling his lies in a congressional hearing that spirals into chaos, exposing secrets that could topple his career. The chamber hummed with tension, a pressure cooker of whispered speculations and darting glances. Rows of polished mahogany desks gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, each occupied by lawmakers whose faces betrayed a mix of anticipation and unease. At the center of the storm sat Kash Patel, his tailored suit crisp, his posture radiating, the confidence of a man who'd navigated countless hearings unscathed. His reputation as a fierce defender of national security preceded him, forged through years as a prosecutor, a congressional aide, and a loyal operative in high-stakes intelligence circles. Patel's sharp jawline and unflinching gaze had long been his armor, deflecting accusations with ease. Today, he expected more of the same. Routine questions, predictable posturing, and a chance to cement his narrative as a patriot wronged by partisan attacks. Across the room, Representative Jasmine Crockett adjusted her glasses, her expression unreadable. The Texas Congresswoman, known for her razor-sharp intellect and unrelenting pursuit of truth, had spent weeks preparing for this moment. Her team had burned midnight oil, sifting through terabytes of data, chasing leads that others dismissed as dead ends. Crockett's rise in Congress had been meteoric, her background as a civil rights attorney and state legislator equipping her with a knack for dismantling falsehoods. She'd faced men like Patel before, polished, powerful, and convinced of their own invincibility. But today was different. In her hands, she held a dossier that could rewrite the script. The hearing began with the usual formalities: the gavel's sharp crack, the chairman's droning preamble, and a parade of opening statements. Patel's testimony started smoothly, his voice steady as he recounted his tenure overseeing intelligence briefings during a turbulent period. He spoke of protocol, of loyalty to the Constitution, of his tireless efforts to protect classified information. The room seemed to nod along, lulled by his practiced cadence. But Crockett sat still, her pen poised over a legal pad, her eyes never leaving Patel's face. She wasn't here for platitudes. When her turn to question arrived, the air shifted. "Mr. Patel," she began, her voice low but cutting, "you've testified under oath that you never bypassed secure channels for sensitive communications. Is that correct?" Patel nodded, his lips curling into a faint smile. "Absolutely, Congresswoman. I followed every protocol to the letter." The room held its breath as Crockett leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "Then perhaps you can explain this." She slid a stack of papers across the desk, her movements deliberate. The documents, projected onto screens for all to see, were emails, time-stamped, authenticated, and damning. They detailed Patel's instructions to subordinates to use private servers for discussions about intelligence briefings, bypassing official systems. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Patel's smile faltered, though he quickly recovered, leaning into the microphone. "These are taken out of context," he said, his tone dismissive. "Routine correspondence, nothing more." But Crockett wasn't done. She pressed a button, and the screens flickered to life again. This time with encrypted text messages, their contents stark and undeniable. "Routine?" she asked, her voice rising with controlled fury. "You directed your team to delete records of these exchanges, Mr. Patel. Why would a man following protocol need to cover his tracks?" The room erupted in murmurs, lawmakers shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Patel's hands clenched the edge of the table, his knuckles whitening. He opened his mouth to respond, but Crockett cut him off, her words like a blade. "Before you answer, let me remind you, you're under oath." The weight of her words hung heavy, a challenge and a warning. Patel's eyes darted to his counsel, then back to Crockett, searching for an escape. The confidence that had carried him into the room was crumbling, replaced by something raw, something unsteady. As the clock ticked down on her allotted time, Crockett dropped her final bombshell. "We have more, Mr. Patel," she said, holding up a flash drive. "Audio recordings, your voice, your orders. Shall we play them now?" The chamber fell silent, every eye on Patel, whose face had drained of color. What was on that drive, and how much deeper did this go? The chamber froze, every breath held as Jasmine Crockett dangled the flash drive like a guillotine blade over Kash Patel's career. His eyes, once sharp with defiance, now flickered with something primal: fear. Patel's jaw tightened, his voice barely steady as he leaned into the microphone. "Congresswoman, I'm not sure what you're implying, but I'd caution against presenting unverified materials." His words aimed for authority, but the tremor in them betrayed him. Crockett's lips curled into a faint, steely smile. "Unverified? Mr. Patel, these recordings have been authenticated by independent forensic analysts. Shall we test your memory?" She plugged the drive into the console, her movements deliberate, almost theatrical, yet devoid of grandstanding. The screens flickered, and a grainy audio waveform appeared, time-stamped to a date 2 years prior. The chairman, a grizzled veteran of congressional battles, raised a hand. "Congresswoman, are you certain this evidence complies with committee rules?" Crockett's gaze didn't waver. "Mr. Chairman, this evidence was obtained legally through a whistleblower and cleared by counsel. The truth doesn't wait for bureaucracy." A murmur of approval rippled through the gallery, though the chairman's scowl deepened. He nodded reluctantly, and Crockett pressed play. A voice, unmistakably Patel's, crackled through the speakers. "I don't care what it takes. Reroute the briefings through the secondary channel. No paper trail, no oversight." The words landed like a thunderclap. Lawmakers shifted, some scribbling furiously, others staring at Patel, whose face had gone ashen. The recording continued, Patel's voice growing sharper. "If anyone asks, it never happened. Burn the logs." The audio cut off, leaving a void filled only by the hum of the chamber's air conditioning. Crockett let the silence linger, her eyes locked on Patel. "Care to explain, Mr. Patel? Or should I play the next one?" The question was a trap, and Patel knew it. He gripped the table, his knuckles stark against the wood. "This is a fabrication," he said, his voice rising, "a desperate attempt to smear me." But the conviction in his tone was hollow, and the room sensed it. A senator to his left leaned away, as if distancing himself from a sinking ship. Crockett didn't flinch. "A fabrication? We have metadata, IP logs, and sworn affidavits from your former aides. You ordered the concealment of intelligence briefings, critical to national security. Why?" Her voice was a scalpel, precise and unrelenting. Patel's counsel whispered urgently in his ear, but he waved them off, his composure fraying. "I acted in the nation's interest," he snapped. "You wouldn't understand the stakes, Congresswoman." The room erupted. Lawmakers shouted, over each other, some demanding order, others hurling accusations. Crockett raised a hand, her presence commanding silence. "The stakes? Let's talk about those. You bypassed oversight to hide briefings on foreign threats. Who were you protecting, Mr. Patel? Yourself? Or someone higher up?" The implication hung heavy. A shadow cast over the entire proceeding. Patel's eyes darted to the gallery, where reporters scribbled frantically, their cameras capturing every bead of sweat on his brow. He opened his mouth, but Crockett cut him off, her voice rising with controlled fury. "Don't answer yet. Let's add context." She pulled up another document, a memo signed by Patel, authorizing the transfer of classified data to an unsecured server. "This was sent hours after your orders in that recording." Coincidence? The screen zoomed in on Patel's signature, bold and unmistakable. The chamber buzzed, the weight of the evidence crushing Patel's defenses. Patel's counsel stood, objecting to the pace of the revelations, but the chairman overruled them, His curiosity piqued. Crockett pressed forward, her cadence relentless. "We traced the server, Mr. Patel. It wasn't just unsecured, it was offshore, leased under a shell company. Who funded it? What were you hiding?" Patel's silence was deafening, his earlier bravado reduced to a clenched fist and a vacant stare. As her time neared its end, Crockett leaned forward, her voice low but searing. "This is just the beginning, Mr. Patel. We have witnesses waiting to testify. Names, dates, transactions. Will you come clean, or do we keep peeling back the lies?" The chamber held its breath, every eye on Patel, whose hands trembled as he reached for his water glass. What names were on that list, and how far up the chain did this go? Kash Patel's trembling hand knocked over his water glass, the spill, soaking his notes as Jasmine Crockett's words echoed. Witnesses, names, transactions. The chamber's silence was suffocating, all eyes on his unraveling facade. Patel dabbed at the mess with a handkerchief, his movements jerky, a stark contrast to the polished operative who'd entered the room hours ago. The cameras zoomed in, capturing the beads of sweat on his forehead, the flicker of panic in his eyes. He cleared his throat, forcing a semblance of control. "Congresswoman, these theatrics don't change the truth. I served my country honorably. Your so-called witnesses are opportunists chasing headlines." His voice aimed for defiance but landed brittle, cracking under the weight of Crockett's stare. Crockett leaned back, her expression a mix of pity and resolve. "Theatrics? Mr. Patel, the truth doesn't need a stage, it needs evidence, and we have plenty." She gestured to the screen, where a new file loaded. A spreadsheet detailing wire transfers, each linked to the offshore server Patel had dismissed. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of thousands of dollars funneled through cryptic accounts. "These transactions," Crockett said, her voice steady, "funded your operation to bury intelligence briefings. Care to tell us who authorized them?" The chamber buzzed, lawmakers craning to see the screen. Patel's counsel shot up, objecting to the document's admissibility, but Crockett was ready. This was obtained through a federal subpoena verified by banking regulators. "Sit down." Her command was sharp, and the attorney hesitated before sinking back into his seat. Patel's eyes darted to the exits, as if calculating an escape, but the weight of the room pinned him in place. Crockett pressed on, her cadence relentless. "Let's talk about your witnesses, Mr. Patel. You call them opportunists, but they're your former colleagues, career intelligence officers who risked everything to come forward." She slid a photo across the desk, projected for all to see. A grainy image of Patel meeting a known foreign consultant in a dimly lit cafe. The timestamp matched one of the wire transfers. "This was taken 2 days after you ordered the briefings rerouted. Explain." Patel's mouth opened, then closed, his breath shallow. "That's not what it looks like," he stammered. "A routine meeting, nothing more." But the room wasn't buying it. A senator to Crockett's right muttered under his breath, loud enough for the mics to catch. "Routine, my ass!" The gallery erupted in stifled laughter, quickly silenced by the chairman's gavel. Crockett didn't smile. "Routine? Then why did you use a burner phone to arrange it?" "We have the call logs." The screen shifted again, displaying a call, record with Patel's alias highlighted. The evidence was piling up, each piece a brick in the wall closing around him. Patel's counsel whispered frantically, but he ignored them, his voice rising in desperation. "This is a witch hunt. You're twisting facts to fit your narrative." The outburst drew gasps, and Crockett's eyes narrowed. "Twisting facts? You swore an oath, Mr. Patel. You hid briefings that could have saved lives. Who were you answering to?" The question hung like a blade. Patel's silence was damning, his hands now clenched into fists. The chamber's tension was palpable, every cough and rustle amplified in the stillness. Crockett pulled out another document, this one a redacted email chain. "This is you. coordinating with an unnamed official to delay a counterterrorism. Report. Why? What were you afraid Congress would find? The email's subject line, "Contain the leak," flashed on the screen, drawing audible reactions from the gallery. Patel's face contorted, a mix of rage and fear. "You're out of line, Congresswoman. You don't know what you're dealing with." The threat was subtle but clear, and Crockett seized it. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. A man who thought he was untouchable. But the truth catches up, Mr. Patel." She held up a sealed envelope, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "Inside this are sworn statements from 3 of your aides. They're here, ready to testify. Should we call them now?" The room held its breath. Patel's eyes locked on the envelope. The chairman glanced at the clock, then at Crockett, sensing the hearing was spiraling beyond his control. What was in those statements, and who else was about to be dragged into the light? The envelope in Jasmine Crockett's hand seemed to pulse with the weight of secrets, its seal a ticking bomb. Kash Patel's stare was fixed on it, his breath shallow, as the chairman's gavel hesitated, the hearing teetering on the edge of chaos. Crockett's voice cut through the tension, calm but unyielding. "Mr. Patel, you've had chances to explain. You've chosen deflection. These statements," she said, tapping the envelope, "aren't theories. They're your aide's words, under oath, detailing your orders to manipulate intelligence." The chamber's air grew heavier, lawmakers leaning forward, their notepads forgotten. Patel's counsel stood, voice strained. "We haven't seen these documents, Congresswoman. This is ambush litigation." Crockett's eyes flicked to him, sharp as a blade. "Ambush? Your client hid the truth for years. He doesn't get to dictate the terms now." The chairman, his face a mask of conflicted authority, cleared his throat. "Congresswoman, we'll need to review these statements for protocol." Crockett didn't blink. "Mr. Chairman, protocol didn't stop Mr. Patel from rerouting classified briefings. These statements are cleared and ready." Her tone left, no room for negotiation, and the chairman, outmaneuvered, nodded curtly. Crockett opened the envelope, pulling out a single page, its contents projected onto the screens. The room gasped as names appeared. Patel's aides, yes, but also a cryptic reference to a senior official coded as X1. "Who is X1, Mr. Patel?" Crockett asked, her voice a low burn. "Your aides say you reported to them, not the chain of command. Why?" Patel's hands twitched, his earlier bravado now a distant memory. "This is speculation," he said, but his voice cracked, and the room sensed blood in the water. Crockett pressed forward, relentless. "Speculation? Your aide, Sarah Linden, says you met X1 in private. No records, no witnesses. She's outside, ready to testify. Should we bring her in?" The gallery buzzed, reporters typing furiously, their feeds lighting up with speculation about X1's identity. Patel's counsel whispered urgently, but he waved them off, his eyes darting to the screen where Linden's sworn statement loomed. "Sarah's lying," he snapped, his voice rising. "She's disgruntled, fired for incompetence." The outburst drew sharp looks from lawmakers, some shaking their heads. Crockett's smile was icy. "Disgruntled? She was your deputy for 3 years, Mr. Patel. Her performance reviews, signed by you, call her exemplary. Try again." The screen shifted to a new document, a calendar entry from Patel's phone, seized under subpoena. It marked a meeting with X1 at a nondescript hotel, hours after a critical briefing on foreign election interference was buried. "This was no coincidence," Crockett said, her voice rising with controlled fury. "You delayed that briefing. Mr. Patel, lives were at stake and you played games with the truth. For who?" The question landed like a punch, and Patel's silence was deafening, his face a mask of barely contained panic. The chamber's tension was electric, every rustle amplified. A senator to Crockett's left muttered, "He's done," loud enough for the mics to catch, sparking a ripple of murmurs. Patel's counsel tried again, objecting to the calendar's admissibility, but the chairman overruled, his patience thinning. Crockett seized the moment, pulling up a new piece of evidence. A text exchange between Patel and Linden, time-stamped the night of the hotel meeting. "Make sure X1's name stays out of it," Patel had written. Linden's reply, "Understood." Logs cleared. The room erupted, lawmakers shouting over each other, the chairman's gavel pounding for order. Crockett stood, her presence commanding. "You erased evidence, Mr. Patel. You betrayed your oath. And now, your own team is exposing you." She held up another page from the envelope, her voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "This is Linden's testimony about X1's orders, orders you followed without question. Want to guess what she says about their motives?" Patel's eyes widened, his hands gripping the table as if to anchor himself. The chairman glanced at Crockett, then at the clock, his authority slipping as the hearing spiraled. Who was X1, and what did they want hidden at all costs? Kash Patel's grip on the table tightened, his knuckles white as Jasmine Crockett held the damning page aloft, its contents a noose tightening around his neck. The chamber pulsed with anticipation, the mystery of X1's identity a live wire. Crockett's voice was a blade, slicing through the chaos. "Mr. Patel, your aide Sarah Linden says X1 ordered you to suppress intelligence on foreign threats. She says you complied to protect their agenda. Care to name them?" The question was a grenade, and Patel's silence was its fuse. His eyes, wild now, darted to the gallery where reporters leaned forward, their cameras relentless. The chairman, his face etched with strain, banged his gavel. "Order! Congresswoman, proceed with evidence, not conjecture." Crockett's gaze didn't waver. "This isn't conjecture, Mr. Chairman. It's testimony, under oath." She lowered the page, revealing a new document on the screen. A sworn affidavit from Linden, its text stark and unyielding. "Mr. Patel told me X1 had leverage," it read. "He said exposure would destroy us all." The chamber gasped, lawmakers exchanging stunned glances. Crockett's voice rose, steady but searing. "Leverage, Mr. Patel? What did X1 have on you? Or were you just a willing pawn?" Patel's counsel leapt up, voice shrill. "This is hearsay, unsubstantiated." But Crockett was ready, her response a whip crack. "Hearsay? We have Linden's notes, taken in real time, corroborated by two other aides." "Sit down." The chairman hesitated, his authority fraying, but nodded for Crockett to continue. She pulled up a new piece of evidence, a grainy security still from the hotel where Patel met X1. The figure beside him was blurred, their face obscured, but the timestamp matched Linden's testimony. "This is you, Mr. Patel, with X1, Crockett said, her tone unrelenting. "Hours later, you buried a report on cyber attacks targeting our elections. Why? What was worth betraying your country?" Patel's voice, when it came, was a rasp. "You're twisting everything. I protected national security." But the words lacked conviction, and the room sensed it. A congressman to Crockett's right scoffed audibly, muttering, "Protected who?" The gallery stirred, the tension now a living thing. Crockett leaned forward, her eyes locked on Patel's. "National security? You hid threats, Mr. Patel. You let vulnerabilities fester. And for what? Power? Money? Or something darker?" The screen shifted to a financial trail, a labyrinth of shell companies linked to the offshore server. One account stood out, tied to a cryptic entity labeled X1 Holdings. The room buzzed, reporters scribbling furiously. "This account funded your operation," Crockett said, her voice a controlled burn. "It received deposits from foreign sources, sources you never disclosed. Care to explain?" Patel's counsel objected again, but the chairman overruled, his curiosity now outweighing protocol. Patel's face was a mask of desperation. His earlier composure shattered. "This is a setup," he said, his voice rising. "You're painting me as a traitor when I was following orders." The admission slipped out, raw and unintended, and the chamber erupted. Lawmakers shouted, the gavel pounded, but Crockett's voice cut through. "Orders? From X1? You just admitted it, Mr. Patel. You followed their orders, not the Constitution's." The room was a powder keg, every word a spark. Crockett pulled up another piece of evidence, a voice memo, Lyndon's voice trembling as she recorded Patel's instructions. "X1 says no leaks, no matter the cost," he'd said. "This stays buried." The audio played, Patel's voice unmistakable, and the chamber fell silent, the weight of his words crushing. Crockett let the silence linger, then spoke, her voice low but lethal. "Buried, Mr. Patel? You buried the truth, and now it's burying you." Patel's hands shook, his eyes glassy as he stared at the screen. The chairman, visibly rattled, glanced at Crockett. "Congresswoman, are you moving to call witnesses?" Crockett nodded, holding up a list. "We have Lyndon and 2 others, ready to confirm X1's role. But first, Mr. Patel, one last chance. Name X1, or we bring them in. To do it for you." The room held its breath, Patel's silence a scream. Who was X1, and what would their exposure unravel? Kash Patel's silence was a wound, bleeding under Jasmine Crockett's unrelenting gaze. Her list of witnesses loomed like a guillotine, and the chamber waited, breathless, for him to name X1 or face the consequences of his defiance. Patel's lips parted, but no sound came. His glassy eyes flicked to the list in Crockett's hand, then to the gallery, where cameras captured every twitch of his unraveling composure. The chairman, his face a map of creases, leaned forward. "Mr. Patel, answer the question, or we'll proceed with the witnesses." His voice was firm, but the tremor in it betrayed the hearing's spiraling stakes. Crockett's stare never wavered. "Last chance, Mr. Patel. Name X1, or we'll hear it from those you betrayed." The room was a crucible, every whisper and shuffle amplified. Patel's counsel stood, voice hoarse. "We request a recess to confer." Crockett's response was immediate, razor-sharp. "No recess. Your clients had years to confer. He answers now." The chairman hesitated, then nodded, siding with Crockett. The gallery buzzed, reporters typing furiously, their feeds exploding with speculation. Patel's hands, still shaking, gripped the microphone. I don't know what you want from me," he stammered. "This is a circus." The word ignited the room. Lawmakers gasped, some shouting in protest, others nodding in grim agreement. Crockett's voice sliced through the chaos, calm but lethal. "A circus? You hid intelligence, Mr. Patel. You followed X1's orders to protect their interests, not America's. That's not a circus. It's a betrayal." She held up the list, her movements deliberate. "Sarah Lyndon, Michael Voss, and Elena Carter. Your aides. They're here, ready to testify about X1's directives. Shall we start with Lyndon?" Patel's face drained of color, his breath hitching. "They're lying," he said, but the words were hollow, a desperate gasp. Crockett pulled up a new piece of evidence, a video, grainy but clear, from a secure facilities camera. It showed Patel and Lyndon in a heated exchange, his gestures sharp, her face tense. The audio was faint, but audible. "X1 won't tolerate leaks," Patel said. "Handle it, or we're both done." The video froze on Patel's face, his expression a mask of cold authority now crumbling in real time. The chamber erupted, the chairman's gavel useless against the tide of outrage. Crockett stood, her presence commanding. "Handle it? You threatened your own team, Mr. Patel. You served X1, not the public. And now your silence is deafening." She turned to the chairman. I move to call Sarah Linden. The chairman nodded, his reluctance gone, replaced by a grim resolve. A door at the chamber's edge opened, and Linden stepped forward, her face pale but determined. Patel's counsel leapt up, objecting to the witness's credibility, but Crockett was relentless. Credibility? Linden kept records, Mr. Patel. She documented every order, every meeting with X1. The screen flashed to a new document. Linden's journal, its pages scanned and highlighted. One entry stood out. X1 demanded silence on the cyber attack data. KP said it was non-negotiable. The initials KP burned into Patel's legacy, and the room felt it. Linden took the stand, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Mr. Patel told me X1 had the power to ruin us, she said. He said their reach went beyond Washington. The gallery buzzed, lawmakers scribbling, the implications seismic. Crockett stepped closer, her voice a controlled burn. Ms. Linden, what was X1's motive? Why did Mr. Patel obey? Linden's eyes met Patel's, then dropped. They wanted control. The intelligence exposed their allies, foreign and domestic. The revelation landed like a shockwave. Patel's head snapped up, his voice a raw shout. That's a lie. She's fabricating this. But the room wasn't listening. Linden's words had cracked the facade, and Crockett seized the moment. Control, Mr. Patel? You sold out our security for their power. Who are their allies? She pulled up another document, a redacted list of names tied to X1 holdings, some foreign, some chillingly familiar. The chairman's face paled, his gavel still. Crockett's voice dropped, a chilling promise. We're not done, Mr. Patel. Voss and Carter are next. Their testimony links X1 to these names. Will you speak, or do they bury you deeper? Patel's eyes locked on the list, his breath ragged. What names were on it, and how much more could he hide? Kash Patel's ragged breaths filled the silence, his eyes glued to the list of names tied to X1 holdings, each one a nail in his coffin. Jasmine Crockett's promise of more witnesses hung heavy, and the chamber braced for the final blow. Crockett's voice was a quiet storm, unyielding. Mr. Patel, Michael Voss and Elena Carter are ready to testify. Their accounts match Linden's. Dates, meetings, orders from X1. You can't outrun this. She held the list aloft, its redacted names a taunting shadow. Patel's counsel stood, voice cracking. This is prejudicial. We demand a recess. But Crockett's gaze silenced them. No more delays. Your client's time is up. The chairman, his face ashen, nodded, his gavel still, as if surrendering to the truth's momentum. Patel's hands trembled, his voice a whisper. You don't understand. The consequences. Crockett leaned forward, her eyes piercing. Consequences? You mean for you? Or for X1's network? She turned to the screen, revealing a new document. A decrypted email from Patel to X1, sent days after the buried cyber attack briefing. Keep the data locked, it read. Our partners can't be exposed. The word partners burned into the room and gasps rippled through the gallery. Partners, Mr. Patel? Crockett asked, her tone lethal. Foreign operatives? Domestic players? Who were you shielding? The chamber was a powder keg, every eye on Patel, whose face was a mask of defeat. He opened his mouth, but no defense came. Crockett pressed on, pulling up Voss's testimony, projected for all to see. Mr. Patel said X1's partners funded the server to control the narrative, it read. He said exposure would spark chaos. The room buzzed, lawmakers scribbling, reporters typing frantically. Crockett's voice rose, a controlled inferno. Chaos? You caused it, Mr. Patel, by hiding threats to our democracy. For who? She called Voss to the stand. The former aide, grizzled and resolute, faced Patel without flinching. You told me X1's partners were untouchable, Voss said. You said they owned half of Washington. The revelation was a thunderclap, the gallery erupting in murmurs. Patel's counsel objected, but the chairman overruled, his voice weary. Let him speak. Voss continued, his words steady. You named two partners, both tied to foreign lobbying firms. You said their money kept the operation alive. Patel's head sank, his fight gone. Crockett turned to the final witness, Carter, whose testimony sealed the noose. Mr. Patel burned evidence to protect X1, Carter said, her voice unwavering. He admitted X1 was a code name for a senior official with ties to those firms. The screen flashed a final piece of evidence. An audio clip, Patel's voice, raw and desperate. X1's the key, he said. If they go down, we all do. The chamber fell silent, the weight of his confession crushing. Crockett stood, her presence commanding. You admitted it, Mr. Patel. You served X1, not America. Your silence ends here. She turned to the chairman. I move for immediate referral to the Justice Department. The motion passed in a blur, lawmakers nodding grimly. Patel's head bowed, his hands limp, as marshals approached, the hearing, dissolving into controlled chaos. In the days that followed, the fallout was seismic. Internal audits exposed the foreign firm's influence, sparking investigations that reached beyond Patel. Public outcry flooded the airwaves, demands for transparency drowning out partisan noise. Crockett emerged as a beacon, her persistence, a symbol of accountability. Patel's taped confession, replayed endlessly, became a haunting reminder. Truth, not spectacle, had prevailed. The final image was Crockett leaving the Capitol, her face weary but resolute, reporters clamoring for comment. She paused, her voice steady. This wasn't about one man. It was about trust. Ours to keep, theirs to lose. The crowd parted, and she walked on, the weight of her victory tempered by the work still ahead. Patel's career was over, X1's, network unraveling, and the nation, bruised but awake, demanded answers. The hearing had ended, but its echo would shape the future, a testament to the power of relentless truth.